Just stepped off a plane, never hopped on a plane.
Welcome, Guvna B.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Do you know what? I ain't actually been to Portsmouth like properly. Like I've driven around it, through it. So I was like, oh, what should I expect? Yeah, what's everyone gonna be like and stuff? But you lot are pretty cool, man. So yeah.
Thank you. We try. I don't know if anyone's seen like the back of this really cool jacket, and it says "Hello, mate." Do some people know like how Guvna B always says "Hello, mate"?
Hello, mate.
Can you tell us what is that?
So when I was like 11, no 12, I moved to Essex, and we got the Essex crew, and yeah, that's how we greet each other. Hello, mate, you're right. And I put it in a lyric, like back then, and everyone started saying the lyrics to me. Then I went to New York, slightly disjointed story, but when I went to New York, everyone was really, really friendly. I don't know whether it's because of my accent or whether they're just friendly over there, but they would just say hello to strangers, yeah? So when I got back to London, I thought, oh, let me try it. So I got on the Central line, and I was just like, you're right, mate, to the person that was there, and they got up and moved carriages, yeah? So I thought, I feel like I should put something on some merch that'll make people like start conversations and feel good and be friendly and stuff. So I put it on a t-shirt, and people keep buying it, so we keep printing them. So.
Yeah, we got Tom in the house repping your gear. Yeah. Okay, let's say everyone say hello, mate. Nice. And while we're on the topic of just like getting to know you a bit more, do you want to explain your name, Guvna B?
Yeah, so I never really wanted to be a rapper, but when I went to school, I don't know if some of you might have had like tag names when you went to school. So me and my friends, we were like a little army. So I was like the governor, my boy Jeffrey was like lieutenant, another guy was general, and we just called each other that, and it just stuck. If I knew that I was going to be a rapper, I would have picked something a lot better, but it's too late now. But I might do like, you know, like Puff Daddy rebranded, he was like P. Diddy, now he's just Diddy. I might do that.
Yes. No, I think it's good. I quite like it. Yeah, never heard it before. But yeah, we'd love to hear more about like your personal testimony and your personal journey, if you don't mind sharing a bit about that.
Yeah. So my parents came over to the UK from Ghana in their mid-20s. Is that my mum? Had me and my younger brother, and both my parents are Christians, so we basically went to church from a very young age. Went to a Pentecostal church in East London, but when I got to the age of about 15, I realised that no one had actually like explained the gospel to me, and I hadn't really taken it upon myself to just think about why I'm a Christian and what I believe. And my mum and dad weren't really forcing me to go to church anymore, so I was like, I'm not really going to come back if this ain't real for me. So I guess that started my journey of trying to delve into like faith for myself. Spoke to my youth leader, he like taught me a lot about the Bible, started meeting up with him and stuff, and I don't know, I just really believed that Jesus was real. I feel like I believed that from a young age, and it was really weird. You know, some people are like, yeah, but how do you know? And for me, it was really simple, and it sounds stupid, but I remember being like 7 years old, yeah, and looking at both my hands, and thinking like, rah, they're the same size. Like, I don't believe this is an accident, yeah? And that sounds proper stupid, but that's the thing that made me believe that there's a creator, yeah? So I know that it's not like the best theology and stuff, but it's just
good, it's good.
And then yeah, just through like developing my own relationship with Jesus, I just believed that it was the best way, because I had tried a lot of things in my teenage years, like money, girls, cars, that kind of stuff. And I don't know, they just never really found true happiness, but it's been about 14 years now, and Jesus is still making me happy, so.
Yeah, that's so good. And actually, we'd like to shout out your wife and your baby is here tonight.
Yeah.
At the back.
Big up my wife. Everyone's looking like, which one is it? Which one is it? But yeah.
Baby Ezra, yeah?
Baby Ezra, 3 weeks old. This is his first time out of London, so Portsmouth is like his first holiday, which is
Will baby Ezra be making any appearances on any upcoming records?
I don't know, man. He's a bit, I don't know what he wants to go into, man. Yeah.
You mean he doesn't know yet what he's
No, he doesn't know, but I was asking him the other day, and he was like, West Ham, I want to play for West Ham.
So you've told us a bit about your testimony, about your relationship with God and your faith, but you're a music artist. Will you tell us a bit about how you got into that industry?
Yeah, so in year 9 at school I started to rap battle in the playground. So yeah, just say some not very nice stuff about people's mums and that. And I was very, very good at it, right? So I just continued to do that, built a bit of a reputation for myself in the local area, but I was going to church at the same time. And do you know, I'm showing my age here, but does anyone remember like a website called MySpace? Yeah. Cool, yeah, so I had MySpace, it was sick. Do you remember? Was you on MySpace?
I wasn't on MySpace, but sorry, I also wasn't on like Bebo or anything.
Ah, cool. I went on Bebo, but anyway, I put one of my songs on MySpace, and then my youth leader heard it, and obviously I wasn't saying some nice things, so he kind of took me under his wing and said, look, I don't really understand that you come to church and that around your family, you're this person which everyone like respects and loves. You say you want to explore a relationship with God or whatever, but when you go to school or when you're on your estate, you turn into someone else. And he just said God's not just interested about your Sunday, like he's interested in your Monday to Sunday, all the aspects of your life. So don't be afraid to use the gift that he's given you for him. And he challenged me to write some music about my faith. And I did that, and he said, why don't you just like put an album together for the youth group? And there was like about 80 people in our youth group, and so we put on like a little album launch, and like 1,000 people turned up. And I guess that's when I realised that like, oh, maybe God's given me something, and just keep running with it.
And we've kind of touched on it a little bit about the kind of typical like rap culture and how that might be quite different from sort of like traditional like Christian or church culture. As a Christian artist in the rap grime industry, how have you navigated that? Like trying to put out a Christian message in that place, and what kind of responses maybe have you got from either side?
Yeah, so when I first started just like putting my faith in my lyrics and stuff, you know that when you first become a Christian, I don't know how many people are Christians here, but like you got a lot of zeal and a lot of passion, but not a lot of wisdom. So I was like that guy, I was like, alright, become a Christian now, or you're gonna die. Like, it's not like, you know what I mean? Obviously, it wasn't really the right way. It didn't go down that well. But just like just growing a bit wiser, maturing a little bit in my faith, having a bit more empathy for people and sharing a bit more of God's love and God's grace, people started to take note of what I was doing. And it was really easy for me at the start because I was just performing in like churches and stuff. But then I got the opportunity to do some stuff like outside of the four walls of the church and like urban events and mainstream stuff. And that's when I realised that I never really like fitted in, and it was quite tough. And one of the like most significant moments in my life was like the first mainstream tour that I went on with an artist that was quite big at the time. And it was like a nationwide tour, and his tour management were like, do you want to like do the proper tour thing, get the hotels and that kind of stuff, or do you want to just travel like every day to the shows? And I was like, no, I'll do the proper tour thing, I'll go to the hotels and get on the tour bus and that. And after, it was a show in Bristol, and after the Bristol show, everyone went back to the hotel, and the artist called me and said, yo, we're just playing FIFA in my room, do you want to come over? I was like, yeah, I'm the best at FIFA, I'll come over. And then when I got there was FIFA, but there was also like a lot of girls, a lot of drugs and that kind of stuff. And that was at the moment I thought, like I'm very different, and this is not what I stand for. And God's put me in positions where I'm going to have the opportunity to either like stand up for who I am, or the opportunity to compromise. And I need to make up my mind on what kind of person I want to be. So even though it felt like super embarrassing, I just felt like a strong sense of the Holy Spirit saying like, just do it, like, just be who God's called you to be. So I said, oh, this ain't really for me, I'm gonna go back to my room. And I felt super embarrassed, but the next day, the artist was like, oh, how come you didn't stay? And I was able to like talk to him about my faith and stuff, and he really respected it. So I guess like people are gonna have different views and be quite judgmental, and I don't know, I just realized that everyone has a drug, and everyone has a God, and by that I mean, like, everyone's got a drug, so whether it's like alcohol or drugs or like relationships or sex or whatever it is, everyone's got something they run to keep them going, and I want that thing for me to be something that's not detrimental to me, something that builds me up, something that satisfies me, and for me that's Jesus. And when I say everyone's got a God, I mean like, people will come in here and see us like lifting our hands during worship and think that's weird. But like, I'm at a Drake concert and everyone's doing exactly the same thing, but it's not weird. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm at like the West Ham match and when they score a goal, everyone's getting mad, and that's not weird. And I just feel like we need to be bold in what we stand for and who we call our God, and say, yeah, we're lifting our hands because we believe that this is the way we want to live our lives. And yeah, that's it.
That's amazing.
I just want to also hear about, like, was there anything in the church that maybe didn't support you, or maybe you received rejection from those who thought would actually be promoting you and helping you in what you're doing?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm not mad at that because obviously sometimes the church is used to doing things a certain way. It's kind of like, you don't remember like cassette tapes and that, yeah? Like, then we moved on to like mini discs, and then we moved on to like CD, and now we're streaming. Obviously there's some church people that are still on like cassettes. So you come in with your like, right, Spotify and Apple Music, they're like, what's that? Get that out of here, do you know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes people are scared of change, but I just know that God wants me to touch people in new relevant ways with the same message, and I don't feel like we should be afraid of that. So there's been some people, like weird stuff. Like I remember being at one church concert, and then I was about to go off on stage, and then the pastor came out to me, he was like, oh, can you just take your hat off? And I was like, oh, I ain't had a haircut. And he was like, yeah,
No trim.
Yeah, no trim. You're not really allowed to like have your hat on stage. And I was like, why? And he couldn't really explain it to me. So I was like, oh, do you mind if I keep it on? And he was like, oh, it's going to get me in trouble. And I was like, well, you just got in trouble, innit? But like, we major in things that are not that important, do you know what I'm saying? What's important is the God's inside of here, and we touch people with love and grace. So yeah, don't be afraid of change. Obviously, if it's like going against stuff that it says in the Bible, then that's a different story. But if it's just a matter of style, then just go for it. But I've never really fitted in like the mainstream box or the Christian box. But sometimes I feel like I'm happy going against whatever, because God's like, you know that when you're playing five-a-side, and then everyone wants that one player that's sick because they know that that player can win the match. Like, I feel like God's Cristiano Ronaldo and I'm always with him. Like, he's always on my team, so yeah, don't mind.
I love that. So again,
obviously he's not Cristiano Ronaldo. He's much bigger and better than that. But yeah. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
People are going to be looking at Jesus like, is that Cristiano?
Yeah. He's out there with like a number 7 shirt and that.
No, we're talking about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
No, so again, actually, in that topic of like changing, like with our church, we're quite a new church actually. And as you can see, even though we're in very traditional settings, we put very like modern, creative twists on things. And we've got a creative team. Shout out from the creative team. There we go. So we've got people from musicians to graphic designers to all the amazing things you guys do that I do not know. But yeah, we just want to know more, like, how do you kind of convey this positive message and kind of convey the gospel in creativity and in things that maybe the world is already used to? How do you feel like you can actually stand out with the gospel, with a positive message?
Yeah. Don't know if I've got like an amazing answer for that, but I just know that God is like the creator of all things, do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, it's like sometimes people view me as a Christian rapper. I don't really view myself as that. I just feel like I'm a rapper and my faith shapes my worldview. But if I was to just go out there and just like take Stormzy's flow, for example, and just put Jesus all over it, it's just like a bit cheesy and it's not authentic. But because God is the creator of all things, we have access to that creativity. So we don't really need to go out there and copy what's already out there. And we don't need to stay in here and just be completely boring, but we just need to allow God to be creative within us and see how that goes.
What, has there been like a certain... No, let me rephrase that. Do you ever feel like sometimes when you're out there, maybe, because I've seen like Link Up TV, all these like platforms, Charlotte, Link Up TV, come on. All these platforms, do you ever feel like, oh wow, words. Do you ever feel like if you don't say Jesus or you don't preach the gospel, that you're kind of not doing what you're called to do?
I used to think like that, but that was because of the pressure from the church and religion, do you know what I mean? But I feel like if I'm led to say Jesus in a lyric, then I will do it, but I'm not going to say it just to tick a box. Because sometimes some of the lyrics that have spoken to people the most, I haven't said Jesus in the lyrics, but the heart of Jesus has been in the lyrics. Like, God's foundational to me, you know what I mean? He shapes everything I do. And just like in normal conversation, I wouldn't say Jesus in every single conversation. I just allow his love and his grace to speak through me. And it's like that quote, you know, like, you might be the only Bible some people read. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you have to say Jesus every day, but that just means that you have to live it out. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, man. Jesus.
Jesus. I love it, like my mom would always say his name, like, Jesus.
Yeah, mum.
Like, she's got like a twitch, like, Jesus. But anyway, yes, sir,
That's so good. And we've talked a lot about like your So we've talked a lot about like your music career and kind of navigating that kind of side of things, but you also do a lot of work with youth and young people, and specifically within the area of tackling knife crime. We just wondered if you could talk to us a bit about, you know, why you care about that so much, and a bit about some of the stuff that you're seeing happening in that area.
Yeah, so I grew up on a council estate in East London, and I've personally lost a couple of friends to youth violence, and I've just got a big heart for young people, because I remember being like 11, 12, 13 and waking up every day and just kind of drifting through life. But through finding Jesus, it's like I've got a reason to live, like I've got a reason to get up in the morning, I've got a purpose, and I'm not just drifting no more. But there's so many young people that are just drifting. They don't really know where they're going, they don't really know why they're here, and because of that they're getting distracted and getting involved in things that they shouldn't really be getting involved in, and that's when we see things like people losing their lives very prematurely. So I think my mission, one of the missions I feel like God's given me, is to let every young person know that they're special, they're unique, they're created for a reason, and not just here to make up the numbers or fill up the seats, but God's got them here at this precise moment in time for a reason. And if we can get young people, if we can give them a reason to wake up in the morning, I feel like we'll see less of that stuff happening. So that's my mission, and obviously knife crime is a big part of what's going on in London and surrounding counties at the moment. And I feel like the church can be the answer, man. Like, this is a cool building, we're all cool people, but we shouldn't just keep this message inside here. We should go out there and just make an impact on the world. It's like if I have the cure for cancer, I'm not just keeping it in this building, I'm shouting it from the rooftops, do you know what I'm saying? But I've got something bigger than that, I've got something eternal, do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think that's what drives me to speak into that.
That's amazing.
And I never had a big brother or a big sister, so I want to be like that for other people. Maybe not a big sister, but a big brother.
But I'd love to hear as well, like, I was chatting with some few people before, and we're just talking about how, like, God can appear at your greatest pain, in your greatest darkness, that he can appear. And I was wondering, do you have, like, maybe you have a testimony in that you felt like God has come through and you've seen him even greater when you're in a deeper darkness?
Yeah, so I've been quite vocal about this on my last album, but about 2 years ago my dad passed away pretty suddenly, and that was like the first person that I had lost that was super, super close to me. And like I said, I grew up in a Pentecostal church that never really explained stuff too tough. So in that moment, I remember trying to be like, oh, God, you're still good, like, God, you're amazing, and that kind of stuff. But I had a lot of questions and a lot of doubts, but I didn't feel like I had the liberty to ask them, or I didn't really feel like I could be angry with God. So I suppressed all these emotions, and it just made me really depressed, to be honest. And then just like a few months later, someone sent me Psalm 13, and it's David that's writing it, and he's just being super honest, and he's saying stuff like, God, why have you left me? Why have you forsaken me? Why are my enemies like winning this battle? And it just inspired me, because I was like, right, this guy's being super honest. This is in the Bible, so I can just tell God how I truly feel. And it's silly, because obviously God knows how I feel. So there's no point in hiding it. So I just started praying really, really honest prayers, and I was like, God, like, I'm depressed. Don't understand why my dad had to go so suddenly. Don't understand why I didn't really get a warning, and like, I'm in a lot of pain. And when I tell you, it's probably like the most therapeutic, the most real, honest, authentic time I've ever had with God. And it just made me realize that, like, we serve a big God that's bigger than our doubts, bigger than our questions. So why do we feel like we can't come to him with our anger and our doubts and our questions and stuff? What's funny is in that situation, even though it was tough, I never ever felt alone. Like, I felt angry, and I felt down, but I knew that God was there. We just had to work stuff out. So that's probably a situation where I felt like it's been really, really tough, but God's walked through it with me, and I've never felt alone. And I don't know, man, it just made me view the Bible differently and just interpret scriptures differently. And I don't know, even that scripture that like all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. I'm like, how is that going to happen in this situation? But 2 years later, I'm here and I'm thinking, through that experience, I was able to write my album, and that album has helped loads of people that are dealing with grief and depression and sadness. So even through my sadness, I've been able to help people, and God's used it. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
No, yeah, it's so good. That Hands Are Made for Working album, right?
Yeah.
Guys, you need to listen to it. It's so good. It's so raw. And personally, I've not gone through grief like you, but the message of the album just struck our hearts. So it's
I think one of the things I learned is, you know, like the Bible verse that says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but God has come so that we may have life, and life to the full. I always used to view that as like every single day, life is going to be to the full, like it's going to be sick every single day, yeah? But obviously that's not true. But I actually view it a bit differently now. I feel like life to the full some days could be like the fullness of like happiness, another day the fullness of joy, another day it might be the fullness of sadness, but know that in that, God's never going to leave you, never going to forsake you, and you're never ever alone.
That's so good.
Yeah.
My favourite song on the album actually is Every Day.
Sick,
Anyone
man.
know that song? Every day. Chris knows. It's so good.
That's an amazing rendition.
I'll stick to the bits. But yeah, we've obviously got a lot of like youth, students, young adults in this house tonight. We're completely packed. So I'd just love to see, like, what would your message be to us, the young people of Portsmouth, or even old guys? We won't leave you guys out.
Old guys.
Older. Take that back. Sorry, Ryan. Ryan, I love you. I'm sorry. Maybe we'd just love to hear, like, what message would you like to give us, like, just as young people? Maybe some people here don't know Christ, or some people here who have known him their whole life.
Yeah.
Just what have you got for us?
There's loads of things I could say, but I think my biggest struggle when I went to university, and back when I was young.
You're still young.
Yeah, I wasn't really like, I thought I was Superman. So if I was going through like a problem, I feel like I could solve it by myself. Wouldn't really use the people around me that love me, wouldn't be honest or vulnerable to them. And what I found was I'm not Superman, and I can't fix everything by myself. And now I'm in an even worse situation because the problem just grew and grew and grew, and I never dealt with it, and I wasn't honest with the people around me. So yeah, look after the puddles before they turn into floods. And by that I mean, if you find you've got something that you're struggling with, something that you're dealing with, think about who in this world really loves me, like unconditionally. Might be one person, 2, 3 people. And just be honest with them. Say, yo, I'm struggling, man, and I need help, and I don't want this thing to become a bigger problem than it has to be. So help me. If you ain't got no one, there's like a cool Christian counsellor's website. I think it's like christiancounselling.org.uk or something like that. And everyone's like verified, done all their skills, so you're not going to be no weird person or anything like that. And obviously, we serve someone that's with us 24/7, so just be honest with where you're at. My wife actually bought this book by a guy called Charles Mackesy the other day, and she opened a page that said, it's like he's got like these little animals that have conversations with each other, and one of the things said something like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? And then the other guy says, ask for help. And yeah, I think that's what I'd say, like, just ask for help and look after the puddles before they turn into floods.
Stepped off a plane, never hopped in a